Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris.
And I'm Chelsea, and today we discuss the good, the great, the legendary pigskin.
Let's go.
Let's
Every
go.
other podcast they're gonna be talking about this drama, that drama, and we like drama on here sometimes. Well, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it's
Admittedly,
interesting.
that is a tiny bit true.
It is, like, we're not gonna lie. But today we're just gonna talk about the good old-fashioned football games, baby. So
Yeah.
let's get right into it. First of all, can we talk about the Eagles? They
Yeah,
kind
we
of,
can talk about the Eagles.
they kind of, they're really good. There's literally, if you are one of those people that are like they're fake good, like how at this point do you say they're fake good? I mean, I guess the thing I think of is like they haven't had like a truly tough road game, like they haven't had to go to like Buffalo or Kansas City or something, but that's not their fault. It's not on the schedule, but they got some tough ones coming. I mean, they got to play at Dallas soon. They got to play at their division rivals. So I mean, we'll see.
Excuse me. They have played very tough games.
Stop it. I know what you're
They
going to
played
say.
against the Indianapolis Colts, did they not?
50 something points from Sunday night.
That wasn't against the Eagles.
I know,
It's
but
against the Cowboys. That's a different game, good sir. No,
anyways,
I'm just playing. We're trash, bro. Like,
but you did give them a weirdly tough game though.
it was tough in the first half. I mean, once we got
Mm-hmm.
about halfway through the third quarter, it was just kind of out the window at that point. But
Well,
like,
eh, it was
you
it was
know,
close all the way to the end, but
our coach was from the Eagles, and yes, I'm aware he's fired, but like a lot of what they do like has Eagles roots.
mm-hmm.
So there's probably not a team outside of the NFC East that can match up to the Eagles playbook wise and knowing what they're good at better than the Colts because that's the coach's origin. But I mean, even I didn't expect to win. Every time I go into a game this year, I say I expect to be hurt, so my expectations are low. And then like I'm not as hurt, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't still a little hurt because I
fair,
am. But
fair
it's
enough.
okay. But no, the Eagles are good. Can we just
Mm-hmm.
take a moment to acknowledge that the NFC South is what the NFC East was supposed to be?
They've swapped.
Right. But like you would think it wouldn't be that way. But it is. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. I kind of enjoy seeing entertaining NFC East games now because, like I have said on this podcast before, I am sick and tired of Thanksgiving and Christmas Day games where it's Washington versus the Giants and the end score is 6-3. America did not ask for this, but now they're entertaining. So thank you.
Oh man, we'll get into some 6-3 type scores here in a little bit, but
Hoy vey.
just do want to talk about AJ Brown got his revenge game. He had this one circled on the calendar. This was a big deal to him, and I mean, I don't blame him, man. I mean, honestly, I think the Eagles are scarily good. I mean, they're definitely the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now, which we'll get into that a little bit later as
That's a
well.
hot take.
I think they're the favorite right now to win it. There's literally no one that has been able to stand up to them in a lot of these games, or no one's even. I mean, I guess Minnesota is a 10-win team, so they're right behind them. But honestly, I don't know, man. The Eagles. I think if it comes down to Minnesota versus the Eagles, it's Eagles got the dog in them. I don't
They
know
got
about
that
Minnesota.
dog.
I'm gonna stop. Everyone just clicked off now.
That's
But
probably true.
for real, I think the Vikings are good. Don't get me wrong. And I mean, they played a good Jets team this weekend, and they did win. What?
Can we say that the Jets are truly classified as good? Can we? I mean, the
Good enough.
Jets are not bad by any stretch, but
Good enough to give you a
I've
tough
just
game, though.
I've just been so ingrained to think the Jets are bad for like 20 years, you know? It's like hard to get me out of that rut and like see that they're actually really not all that bad this year.
Fair enough.
Who would think that the Jets would give them a better game than the Colts? This is a messed up year, bro. I'm ready for the draft.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I think a lot of these teams, like Houston, who just got annihilated out of the playoffs this weekend, surprise, they're the first ones out. Shocking.
Shocker.
But for real, honestly, impressive win for the Eagles. Because here's the thing, even aside from Washington, like they're really like dominating some of these opponents. Like Tennessee was supposed to be this was supposed to be a tough game for them. Like this was supposed to be one of those games that was going to be really difficult for them to win. And I mean, it really like out after the first half was over, second half it was done, man. It was done. I mean, this game was 35-10. It was like 14-10 at one point, and then Eagles just blew them out the water. That's the thing about the Eagles that I think scares me more than if I'm playing the Vikings. The Vikings can make some incredible plays, but the Eagles can just blow you out the water. They can make incredible plays and just next thing you know, you're down 21. It's like, what the heck happened here? They've got a lot of talent in a lot of different positions here. They're not banking all on Jalen Hurts. They're not banking. He's a huge part of why they're doing so well. And you could probably argue right now that he is the MVP front runner at this time. I'd argue that. I mean,
I'd say second, but yeah, it's close.
so I think I don't know. I'm very interested to see how these last few weeks go for the Eagles, but 11-1, that's not too shabby at all, especially in as tough a division as they're in right now. They have to keep this up. Otherwise, I mean, the Cowboys are literally not far behind them. They're at 9 wins. So it's like it's still not even over really in this division. Just crazy. And Washington was supposed to be the worst one, and then they've pulled out some of their bull crap to some magic, some Taylor Heineke magic to, get where they're at. And the Giants are good somehow. I don't know what the Giants do, but they do something to stay good. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, man, these Eagles, they are built different. As of this moment right now, they're playing really well. They're on fire, and there's not many teams that can stop them.
Right. First of all, we got to shout out our main guy, Kyle, a big Eagles fan. This is for you, Kyle. First of all, I just wanted to express my gratitude to the Eagles for taking A.J. Brown because he's out of the AFC South now, and now I don't have to suffer twice a year. So thank you very much, good sirs. A.J. Brown is honestly, I think, unarguably a top 5 receiver at this point. In the league, generally speaking, perhaps not. But at this point in the season, with the numbers he's put up and the dominance that he shows on the field, I think that he is top 5 currently in this moment. I don't think he's first, but he is up there. I mean, yeah, it was a really impressive game. I mean, it's always funny as a fan to see teams not pay players that deserve it, right? It's just, you would think that the Titans would want to keep a young cornerstone offensive player for whatever he asked for, because it's not like he wasn't dominant in Tennessee. He was. So nothing has really changed. It just, shows where the Titans' priorities lie. They felt that they needed to sign other people, save money, could do without him. Yeah, as we're seeing, they cannot do without him. Their wide receiver corps has not even come close to comparing what he has done on his own. I mean, they don't have anyone relatively close to as dominant as A.J. Brown is on a loaded Eagles team, no less. It's not like A.J. Brown is the only weapon on that team. And yet, you see him going off, every other week, pretty much. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Some interesting news came out from the Titans a couple days after this game. They fired their general manager. They have a winning record, which is pretty uncommon to see something like that happen when you're leading your division and you're currently in the playoffs. Personally, I think that is a direct result of seeing how A.J. Brown smoked them. I don't really think, of course, there's going to be other factors, but the GM is what plays a massive part in trading him. And it's not like what they got back is bad. I mean, the rookie that they have, when he hasn't been hurt, he has not been bad by any stretch. But to say that he's an adequate replacement for A.J. Brown is quite simply not true. He just isn't. And it's not that he can't be really good one day, but currently, he is just not that equivalent. So it's just interesting. Their GM is gone. I mean, I imagine what the owners and the presidents saw A.J. Brown go off and were like, nope, never doing that again. Honestly, I think the A.J. Brown trade to the Eagles is like one of the dumbest trades I've ever seen. Like, nothing will compare to the Texans' dumb trades of trading Hopkins, but this has parallels. I mean, Hopkins was really dominant. for the Texans. Brown was really dominant for the Titans, and yet they're both gone. You would think that the Titans would have learned from the Texans' mistakes, but no. They basically did the exact same thing and traded him away for something that, to be quite honest, is just not the equivalent of what they were hoping for so far. So AJ Brown being on the Eagles is a win. I mean, the Devontae Smith is a good player. I mean, if he develops, he could be a wide receiver 1 in his own right. But he won't ever be if he is on a field with AJ Brown, because that is how good AJ Brown is. Now, in regards to how good the Eagles really are, I'm looking at their schedule. The argument of them truly not having played a very hard road game against a top opponent, I don't feel is an inadequate argument. They have certainly played some hard games. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the Titans are leading the AFC South and are what, a 4th seed in the AFC? Yes, if you look at their team, they don't actually look like they should be leading their division, but the reality is they are. The key to beating the Titans is dropping 2 to 3 touchdowns on them in the first quarter and forcing them to throw the ball, because they can't. If they get a lead, they can just run Derrick Henry the whole game and they will run you into the ground. That's how they win. The key to beating them is just scoring fast. If you can do that and make them throw the ball, they won't catch up in most scenarios.
I agree with that.
And, that's what the Eagles did. I mean, they dropped a ton of points on them, and Derrick Henry just sat on the bench looking dejected. So the Titans game was supposed to be tougher than it was. That just shows how good the Eagles are and how bad the Titans are at quarterback currently. I mean, the whole NFC East, all those games are always going to be tough, regardless of, the record or where it's being played. I mean, they played the Cowboys in October. The Cowboys, I think, are a lot better now than they were mid-October. So I don't know if that's necessarily equivalent. They played the Vikings at the beginning of the season. Again, I think they're a lot better now than they were at the beginning of the season. So it's not to say that they haven't played tough games. They have, but they haven't truly gone out and whooped someone who is going to compete for a Super Bowl against them. Like, let's just be honest. Because the Titans are not that. The Packers are not that, not this year. I mean, the closest you could probably get is the Cowboys, but the Cowboys always choke in the playoffs and would have to get through the Eagles to get to the Super Bowl.
And
I don't really foresee that happening. Yeah, so they didn't even have Dak. I mean, so I don't really foresee that happening. I mean, everyone else they've played, the Lions are always competitive, but they're the Lions. I mean, the Cardinals, the Jags, the Steelers, the Texans, us. I mean, it's not like they've really played a gauntlet. So I will be interested to see how they play against top tier teams. Because if we're being honest, every top tier team in the NFC outside of them and the Cowboys at this point basically is just kind of mediocre. Like, I want to see them go up against the Patrick Mahomes of the world. Like, I want to see them beat down a Chiefs team or a Bills team or someone like that.
What about the 49ers?
Not that I don't. Well, it'll be interesting now with Baker Mayfield leading the pack.
There's no way he starts. Well, no, he's not leading the pack. He's with the Rams.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was going to go to the Niners, and he didn't.
Yeah, they put in.
They leapfrogged him in the waivers.
Yeah.
Personally, I would take Jalen Hurts over Brock Purdy. That's just me. Not that I think that the 49ers are bad by any stretch.
That defense is legit.
Outside of the Cowboys and probably the Vikings, they're the biggest challenge to the Eagles, but they don't have a quarterback.
Literally, they have so many weapons, but you're right.
Yeah. I know that their team is not built around a quarterback and that they can succeed without one. But the reality is, if you're going to make a deep playoff run, you need a quarterback. Brock Purdy is not going to last in the NFC Championship. I'm sorry. Like, it's just not going to happen. As good as the team is and as good as they can support him, I just don't buy it. I just don't. I've been through so many quarterbacks in the last few years. I don't trust anyone. So I want the best for him, but I don't trust it. So it'll be interesting to see if the Eagles can hold up once they start playing truly elite competition. If they can, really without a shadow of a doubt, that they are legit. I think that there are still valid doubts now, just looking at their schedule. But to say that there isn't any evidence that points to them being elite and arguably the best team in the league, I don't think is true either.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows they're elite. I just want to see how elite they'll be against another team that's truly elite. I don't care if the Titans are winning the AFC South. I don't care if they're the 4th or the 5th seed. They're not elite. If you watch them, they just aren't.
No.
Derrick Henry is. Their defense is pretty good, but without a quarterback, they won't survive in the playoffs.
I
mean, really, you're going to put Ryan Tannehill up against Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes can drop 3 touchdowns on you in what, 2 minutes? Probably less than that. If
Except
that happens,
the Bengals.
Yeah, true. But if that happens, there's no chance. I mean, it's just not realistic. So it'll be interesting. I think that the Eagles are very good. I mean, I think they're a top 3 team in the NFC. I will just be interested to see when they truly play other elite teams that aren't a joke. Then it will truly reveal what kind of team they have. I think they'll compete for a Super Bowl. I mean, hey, someone buy me an AJ Brown jersey. I'll wear that in front of all the Titans fans. I mean, hit me up, send me one. I'll wear it. But, you know, it's going to be interesting. Just like how the Cowboys always choke in the playoffs. You know, I just want to see the Eagles dominate someone who's elite.
Now,
because that just proves really without a shadow of a doubt that they are the best. I think there's still an argument that they aren't, even with how good they've played.
Now, I want to say this. Do you think, who's your Super Bowl pick? Who's your Super Bowl winner this year?
I mean, I think the Chiefs are looking pretty good. Everyone thought that they'd be down bad without Tyreek, yet here we are. And arguably, they look better without Tyreek.
Even after last week, would you still go with them? Or this past week?
You know, if they can beat the Bengals in the playoffs, I think it's just hard to go against Patrick Mahomes, especially when he's already played a team once that year. I mean, I know it's happened. Yeah, I know they've lost their last 3 games to the Bengals. So I know that, you know, they have their number. But the more Patrick Mahomes plays a team, the better he's going to know how to beat them. I don't think that the Bengals are going to have their number forever. It's nice being able to see someone actually beat them because it's so uncommon. But I don't know. Literally, the whole NFC is still in the playoff race. So who even knows who will get in there? I mean, I think that the favorites in the AFC are probably the Chiefs. The Bills lost Von Miller to season-ending ACL injury, which is a big loss for them. Josh Allen is elite, but he has turnover problems. The Titans definitely aren't going anywhere. The Dolphins are a sleeper pick. I think they're really good, but I don't think they'll win the Super Bowl this year. Then, I mean, you can't outrule the Bengals. So right now, I'd probably go with the Chiefs just because of how elite they are in the playoffs, especially with Mahomes. In the NFC, probably the Eagles. I don't think the Cowboys will make it. I think they'll choke like always. It would not surprise me if the 49ers were still very good. I just don't trust an unproven rookie currently. But if he proves it, he proves it.
I mean, he did just beat up on the Miami Dolphins, and they won like big time against them. It's hard to blow teams out.
To be fair, though, they weren't expecting him to come in, and they hadn't game planned for Brock Purdy. So, I mean, it kind of was a surprise.
Have to normally? Like, I don't know.
I mean, it's not like you really game plan for a 3rd-string quarterback.
Fair enough.
So,
well,
I mean, by the time, if he plays, he's going to play the whole season, most likely. By the time they get to the playoffs, all the playoff teams are going to see his film. I mean, they're all going to know what to expect. It's a lot of pressure to put on a 7th-round rookie quarterback. I hope he does well. I love the underdog story.
Yeah.
But right now, I'd probably go with Chiefs, Eagles. I think that would be pretty entertaining. Would not surprise me if the Eagles beat the Chiefs, though, with their running game. I think their running game is better. The Chiefs have definitely improved their running game since last year and the years before. It was abysmal before this year. It's gotten better this year. But I mean, the Eagles have like 7 running backs, including their quarterback. A good O-line, a strong quarterback, and a strong running game are pretty much all you need to win a Super Bowl outside of being able to stop a couple of touchdowns on defense.
Yeah.
So I think that their running game really gives them an edge, especially if they get hot in the playoffs.
Here's the thing. I think if you go off of all of this, right, you look at all the top, potential teams in the NFC, for example. To me, the top teams in the NFC are probably the Cowboys, the Eagles, the 49ers, and Minnesota. Minnesota, they all
I
have kind
have
of their strengths and weaknesses.
I
Yeah.
have my doubts about Minnesota still.
I think Minnesota is this weird one where if they're ready to play, they're very very hard to beat. But then you have games where they played against like the Cowboys and where they just stunk up the joint, lost by like 40 points. I think that the problem with the thing with Minnesota is like they can put up they can put up a ton of points, probably the second most compared to all those, good teams in the NFC. I think the Eagles still put up probably more. But man, their weapons like Justin Jefferson and all of that, like that, and Kirk Cousins is playing at a really high level right now. He's playing incredibly well. You got to give props to that. I think that just overall though, I feel like when the pressure now, against the Bills, the pressure was on them and they made it work. I guess it does worry me a little bit because you've seen Vikings history, and when pressure's on them, they tend to fold. But I actually think that they could, with this team, do something. But I think if they were to run into the Cowboys again, it may not be quite the same blowout. I don't think it would be, but I think the Cowboys match up better against Minnesota. Um,
I would
now,
take the Cowboys over Minnesota as well.
hmm the Cowboys defense might be the second best of all those teams I mentioned. I would say they are. I think the 49ers is just a little bit better, but not by much, to be honest. Like the 49ers defense is elite, and so are the Cowboys defense. But I think that the
And the
49ers,
Eagles. The Eagles have a really good defense too.
they do. They do. All of these teams are very well put together. They're complete in a lot of ways. I think that's the kind of the downside if you look at like the Chiefs, for example. Their defense is opportunistic, but it's not shut down. It's not, putting up these types of games that the Dallas defense is or anything. I think the Bills defense is pretty good, although losing Von Miller for the year, I think is going to really hurt them. Um, and so it's going to just put more pressure on Josh Allen and the offense to really go out and score a lot of points. Still think they'll be really good, but honestly, I think right now, probably the Chiefs will win the AFC. Um, the Bengals, though, I mean, hey, they're coming up, but I think they'll win. But I still think the Chiefs will probably win the AFC. And if I'm going to be honest, it's a little bit of a toss up. If I had to go with any team, I'm probably going to go with the Eagles to win the NFC. It sounds kind of basic, but just hear me out. Like there really hasn't been much proof that other teams in the NFC can beat them, aside from Washington, I guess. Which that would be something. That would be wow. But I think that I think the Eagles will probably take the NFC. I think a team like the 49ers, I think if they had a quarterback, man, I'd almost say they're the favorite to win the whole thing. They have so many offensive weapons. They have so many good defensive pieces. It would be nearly impossible not to pick them, but because of the offensive struggles behind at QB, I mean, is Brock Purdy going to be the guy? We're gonna say we doubt it, but hey, who knows? If he is great, that's awesome. Awesome for him. But I think the 49ers, if they just had that quarterback piece, I'd trust them more. But right now I'm kind of at a point where I don't feel like I trust them. And because I'm not gonna chicken out of a pick of a Super Bowl, I'm going to say this honestly. I think that if the Chiefs and Eagles played, well, it's kind of a toss-up. I'm going to go with who I think is probably the better team. I think the Eagles are overall a better team, and I think they're more put together. I think the Chiefs are a better offense behind Patrick Mahomes, but even then, not by much. And honestly, I don't even know if you can really say that. I mean, I'm saying that, but that's mainly because I'm like, who's behind at QB? Like, who do I trust more? That's it's not even really a numbers thing. As far as the numbers go, it's the Eagles. I mean, they have a better balanced attack, but man, you can't count Pat Mahomes out. I think, though, I'm going to say the Eagles are probably my favorite to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting conversation. My primary worry with the Vikings is that they're so streaky.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the Vikings get going in the playoffs, they're going to be extremely hard to beat,
Mm-hmm.
especially if Dalvin Cook gets going and Alexander Madison, they are going to be hard to beat in the
Hawkinson,
playoffs. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. If they don't get hot in the playoffs, I don't think they'll win. That's just me. Not that they don't have a good team, they just have a reputation, kind of like the Cowboys. Once they make it, they could have a good team, and then, it just typically doesn't go that well.
That's true.
I know that the Eagles have only lost one game, but they have had games where they have not looked as good. Not that that's necessarily the same as streaky, but if they are going to win out the NFC, they cannot be barely beating these 6 and 7 seed teams by 3 to 7 points.
I agree with that.
Like, you have to blow them out. Like, if you're playing Tampa Bay, for instance, I know Tom Brady is there and you never know. But if you look at the rest of the team, admittedly, it's not that scary. Like, the Eagles should blow out Tampa Bay. They just should.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Packers. I know, same argument, Aaron Rodgers. But admittedly, again, their team is just not as talented. Mm-hmm. Like, you should blow out teams like that. If you can blow out teams in the NFC playoffs, you're going to be really hard to beat. So, I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. Like, if they can consistently put up 30 points a game leading up to the playoffs, and when they get into the playoffs, they're going to be extremely, extremely hard to beat. And I mean, I like the Eagles. I wouldn't mind seeing them win. I'm just happy that Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady aren't anywhere close to sniffing the playoffs currently. That just warms my heart. I don't know about you,
hey,
but
Brady will probably win it by default at this point.
Probably.
He may not even have to win another game to win that division.
Probably true. But I will say, though, if there is any team that can win without a quarterback, it is the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
They are quite literally built to not utilize a quarterback to the quarterback's greatest potential. Imagine if that offense had Patrick Mahomes. They would literally drop 60 points a game. But ridiculous. They have Jimmy G, who at this point in his career is mediocre at best, in my opinion. They had Trey Lance, who they unfortunately lost to a season-ending injury, which is a real shame, because I think if he had played this year, that they would be even better than they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, going with someone like Brock Purdy or someone off a practice squad, like, they are the team that is built that way to win with a guy like that. But even still being built that way to win with someone like that, I just don't think that they'll be able to take down someone like the Eagles or the Chiefs or someone like that. Even the Bengals. I mean, I don't foresee Brock Purdy carrying the team on his shoulders. I want him to succeed, but admittedly, I don't really foresee that. But it's interesting that we have the same Super Bowl pick. So if we're right, we'll both be right. Boo. Where's the fun in that?
I know it's annoying, but I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll change our minds.
Actually, I think it's going to be the Bears versus Jacksonville, and I think it's going to end in a tie.
Moving on to our next segment here. Let's talk about some games to watch here. This coming Sunday, we've got some bangers. We've got some very interesting ones, but we're not talking about those. Kidding.
Cries.
So the first one I did want to talk about, to be honest, I am looking at the games I picked I thought were interesting, and I'm like,
are they really though?
Are they really? We'll see.
Are they really?
All right. First of all, we got the Browns at the Bengals. Now, I find this very interesting because, I mean, it's a division game, and I think the Bengals are coming off high off of a win against the Chiefs, and the Browns are coming off of a win also, but in my opinion,
a win.
It was almost a preseason game, basically beating Houston. Deshaun Watson will be back, or will be there. He's already been back. He's going to a Cincinnati environment. And yes, I know he used to play for Houston, so that was a hostile environment. But the thing is, Houston fans, I don't even know if they care about their season anymore. They've pretty much got the number one.
Not only will Deshaun Watson be at the game, he'll also be playing.
He
Crazy,
will be the
I
starter.
know.
And I think the Bengals have a very hostile environment to play at. And so not only do they also hate the Browns because they're a division rival, a lot of people hate Deshaun Watson. So that stadium is going to be electric again for a second week in a row. because they want to boo Deshaun. And honestly, I think it's going to be a lot for him to get used to. He's going to be playing against a very tough Bengals team who just did numbers against Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes still obviously had a pretty good game overall, but they still overall in the second half played really well against him. I don't know why their coach can just, on one hand lose to games like the Steelers, but then find ways to outcoach Andy Reid. I don't understand how he does it, but here we are. But I actually think there's a potential here, and my pick here is going to be the Browns.
Oh, come on, man.
I think that this I think that the Bengals just had a very big win for them. They were feeling like really motivated to play the Chiefs. And it's hard to stay motivated 2 weeks in a row or stay as focused as you were for a team like the Chiefs
You
against the
mean the Bengals?
Browns. Yeah. But yeah, what I mean is the Bengals playing the Chiefs. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Browns. I think that their defense is really good.
Trap game.
Honestly, this is kind of a trap game, not going to lie. Anyways, Chelsea, what do you think?
I'm going to pick the Bengals because they are unarguably better. And also, they have a quarterback that the nation doesn't hate, which helps.
Some parts of the country do, but not quite as much, and for the same
That's
reasons.
true.
Yeah.
It will be interesting. I do not think that the Browns will win, but I am interested to see how Deshaun does.
Fair enough.
Especially last week, he didn't really put up stellar numbers.
He looked bad, but yeah, not surprising.
I mean, he hadn't played in over 2 years.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone expected him to come out and throw 4 touchdowns. I'll be more interested in seeing how he does than seeing if they win, because I don't think they will, but I want to see how he does.
Mm-hmm. Next game that I think will be interesting is the Bucks at 49ers. I think the 49ers will win this game. I think the Bucks, to really secure their division, really should try and win this game as hard as they can. And I mean, hey, Tom Brady does have some motivation against the 49ers. He grew up as a 49ers fan, was salty when they didn't pick him. It's kind of hilarious. And so I don't expect the Bucks to be completely out of this one, but the 49ers, I think, overall, just a better team.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the 49ers. I mean, if we're being honest, the Bucks are hanging on to their postseason hopes by a thread, so they need every win that they can get. But even with Brock Purdy at quarterback, I still think that the 49ers are a much better team overall. Wouldn't surprise me if the Bucks made it close, quite simply because of Tom Brady, but I still got the 49ers.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we have the Eagles at Giants. This is going to be a tough one for the Eagles. We were talking about them having tough road games, and I think not finally, but I think this will be one of them. The Giants ended their losing streak this past week, but did they really? I mean, they tied with Washington 20-20.
Now, I can relate, Giants fans. No hate here.
So honestly, kind of weird. But you know what? We have ties for some reason in the NFL, but I think the Eagles will win this one. I think they're going to show up. I think they'll be ready. I mean, they just came off of a pretty good game against Tennessee. Now, I don't think it'll be a blowout. I don't think it'll be quite the same as 35-10, but I mean, hey, those Eagles are talented, and I think the Giants, while they're good, their defense is good, but like I feel like sometimes they just get by in some of these games. I don't know. I just don't feel sold on them. Like if you had to tell me who's the worst team in the NFC East, I'm going to say it's the Giants, because
even over Washington
has pulled out some clutch games. Like they have
That's true.
been winning loud. They started 1-4 and have turned their season around because they did not start Carson Wentz anymore. And
he did get hurt.
He did. And
he's about to lose his job to Taylor Heineke and end up on the Browns. That's what's going to happen.
I don't even know why they went away from Heineke. They like playing behind Heineke. And if you guys remember, this is something Richard Sherman brought up in his podcast. They're like, do you guys remember when Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl? Their first round playoff game against Washington was actually incredibly close against Taylor Heineke. Like,
yep.
I think he probably gave Tampa I don't know about the toughest game, but I mean, I know we all remember that Green Bay Tampa game that happened, and
He
that was
gave them
really
a run for
close.
their money, though. People
True,
are low on Taylor Heineke. He might
true.
not be the best quarterback, but he
No,
fits that system like a glove.
and
And
those
sometimes that's all you
players,
need.
and those players believe in him, and they are behind him, and you can tell every game they don't feel like they're out of it. Even against the Giants, they were having a really rough time, but then through sheer will, they got down the field and scored a touchdown. While they didn't win, honestly, to me, they were lucky to come out of that one just with a tie. So I'm gonna say though, overall, I think so. I think the Giants are still a good team. I think they're still tough to beat, but I do think the Eagles will take this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles too. Not because I don't think the Giants are good, but because I think the Eagles are just so much better.
Mm.
Wouldn't surprise me if this game wasn't a blowout, just quite simply because it's a divisional game. But I'd be very surprised if the Giants win. But if the Giants do win, you better believe there's going to be talk about whether or not the Eagles are real or not.
Oh, there's 1,000% going to be that talk.
Yeah.
But
So it'll be interesting. I hope the Eagles win, but if they don't, the media is going to eat them alive.
Broncos fans can relate.
It's okay. I can relate too.
Same,
No hate.
same. But yeah, well, anyways, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today. Chelsea, do you want to lead us in the outro?
Of course, thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in next week for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at LaunchCodesFB and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at LaunchCodesFootball. My name is Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And we will see you next week.
See ya.
Later.